Hello and welcome to Talking Stories. This is a show where we talk about stories that impact lives and inspire change. I am your host, Raquel Russell, and I'm so glad that you're here today. Turn up the volume, grab your favorite drink, maybe a blanket. You are in for a great show today. Hello and welcome back. This is Talking Stories with Raquel Russell. Thank you so much for listening to this show today, and thank you for tuning in. To those of you who have been tuning into the show in the weeks past, thank you. I just love hearing from you about your favorite parts of this show. We've interviewed some amazing people during this series, really focusing on the power of personal storytelling, from Justin Malone to my mother and author, Patricia Russell. We did a little fun thing with my family during the winter break, and then came back with an episode with my friend and former classmate, Jody Anderson, a freelance writer, and such a thoughtful person. This episode today, I am really excited for you to hear it. It is a great conversation that I got to have with one of my friends. Her name is Robin Harry. We were actually in choir together. I don't want to give away too much about it, but she is an incredibly talented, accomplished woman who has an incredible story to share. And I know that it will speak to people in different places in their life. We get to really nerd out and talk about some of the things that have empowered us as Black women specifically, and black girl nerds, if I could say. But then we also get into some real, how do I say, the conversation just really made me think about mortality in a different way. I know that might sound a little bit morbid, but I know that you will capture a lot from this conversation. So please tune in. Feel free to share this show with your friends, your family. We really just, the mission about this show is inspiring us to look at the stories that make us who we are, and hopefully that inspires you to make a difference in your world and your place around you. So thanks again for tuning in. I don't want to say too much. This is a great conversation. Tune in for this Talking Stories with Robin Harry. Psych, one other thing to add. This episode was recorded in December 2020. So you'll notice some references to the year that, are we calling it the year that shall not be named? I don't know, but yeah, so if you're hearing references a lot to 2020, we did record this in December 2020. So enjoy. Thanks for tuning in. So Robin, I'm so glad to have you here for Talking Stories. Thank you for even taking the time to chat with me today.
My pleasure. I'm happy to do it.
That's awesome. Okay, so I want to give people an introduction to how I know you. We actually went to the same gospel choir, and you were there before me, University of Toronto Gospel Choir. How long were you there?
I was in the choir for, I'm trying to do the math now. I think I joined in 2004, and I left in the middle of nursing school. I think it's 11 and a half years.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Oh my God. I knew it was long, but I don't think I knew it was that long. Yeah,
I was in the choir for 11 and a half years.
Oh my gosh. Well, delayed congratulations on the period of time that you were there.
Well, there's some people in the choir, I think, that have been there for longer than me.
Yeah, Trisha Ann has been there forever. I mean, the choir's 26 this year, I think it was, because last year was supposed to be our 25th?
The 25th anniversary.
I think so. Yeah. Or was this year the 25th and the year just feels that long? Like, I don't know, but...
No, that's right. That's absolutely right. It was supposed to have been this May.
Right. Oh, yes, that was supposed to be the concert, and then COVID happened.
It was supposed to be this year. It is still 2020. That is right.
I can't, honestly, this year has just turned so many things upside down. And I know for you, it's been more than you anticipated. So you're a nurse. Tell us, like, your position, how you've been feeling so far.
So I'm a nurse, and I'm also a certified infection control professional. Um, so I work in infection prevention and control and in occupational health at a Toronto hospital. So as you can imagine, when there's a pandemic which is basically a raging infection all over the world, and your job's infection prevention and control, it's a lot of work because my entire job really is to prevent the spread of infections in hospitals, and to do so especially for our staff. So it's a lot of keeping our staff safe and managing patient cases and
Right.
staff cases and whatnot. So it's a lot of work. It's very rewarding, I will say, but it is also very frustrating, very tiring, and yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a lot. But
Yeah.
I will say I still do love what I do,
Hmm.
despite how absolutely bonkers it's been over the past year. And I am very grateful for what I do. And now that we have vaccines on the horizon, I'm
Yes.
happy to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel finally.
Yeah, whenever we actually get those in Canada. I think they just announced that they're trying to fast track it, I believe, right, to I think
Yeah.
April
So one
2021.
yeah, one of the vaccines is already in Canada. I think they started, if not this week or next week, they're going to start administering it in Atlantic Canada. I think Ontario starts next week, and then we're going to be getting more and more doses as the winter goes along. So
Good news! We can finish 2020 with some good news. Oh my god! I mean, I've kept up with, we've kept up online, really,
yeah,
social media and stuff, and I've been appreciating the posts that you've put out. I can hear how frustrated you are, but like you've been putting out these reminders of like basic things like washing your hands, stay in your house, and that kind of thing, and I appreciate it from hearing you, and hearing just the other nurses in my life. I wish people would continue to take it seriously,
yeah.
but thankful for the almost tunnels of light that you guys are in this darkness.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where everybody is. I think everybody's tired. Everybody's
Yeah.
frustrated. People want to see their families. It's not natural to stay home for 8, 9, 10 months. So I get it. And I do appreciate how frustrated and how tired people are and how much they want to see their families and go back to a normal life. But I think if we can just hang out a little bit longer,
Just a little bit more.
a
Just a
little
little
bit,
bit more.
we'll make it.
Yeah. So you're also, so out of COVID. Sorry, COVID, you don't get all the attention all the time. You are also a singer, and well, obviously we talked about choir. And you write. Like I remember that you used to write for, was it TV Guide, or you used to do reviews for TV
Yeah,
shows?
so I just end up falling into these things. So yeah, so I sing mostly with choir. In the past couple of years, I've started singing backup for a couple different bands. And then my brother, who was a professional bass player, sort of started a band last year to do a Halloween special. And so I did a few solo tracks on that. That was a lot of fun.
You were
I don't
amazing.
know if I'd call myself a singer, but I can sing.
Hey, you're a singer. That's it. Hand to God, okay? That's it.
And yeah, I used to write. So when I was in university the first degree before nursing, I started a minor in English,
Mm-hmm.
because I was doing psychology and biology and I needed a break from all of the science. So I started taking English lit courses and I loved it. And so I started doing a minor in English. I dropped out in the last, I was so tired of school, I dropped the last credit, which I regret now, but I studied literature and I really always loved stories. And
Mm-hmm.
I especially liked the way that stories could be told on television and through movies. Because
Yeah.
as much as I love books, I do, but I think there's just a different element to being able to see a story play out on screen. And so I was going through some stuff in my life and I ended up being home for quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was watching a lot of TV and I used to go on this one website, TV Fanatic,
Right.
where
Okay.
I would read a lot of reviews from some critics I really enjoyed. And so there was one, I don't remember which show I started with. Oh.
I don't want to put shows in your mind because then might make you forget.
No, no, no. What did I write? I wrote for Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I think that was the show I started with because nobody was writing for it. So I started with Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I did Archer. I did Hannibal for one season or two. And I used to do sort of panel critiques with other people for other shows like The Mentalist, Castle. Did I do Game of Thrones? No, I didn't do Game of Thrones. I did oh my goodness, I don't remember all of them now. But yeah, so I used to write sort of, I wouldn't call them critiques. I wouldn't like I didn't really critique shows. I liked to think of them as long overdrawn analyses
Yeah.
of what was going on in the show, what worked, what didn't, what I thought the story was trying to portray. And Sherlock, that's the other one I did.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. You got to get that one in.
Yeah. So I did that for a bit. It was a lot of fun, but then and when I started nursing school, it was taking up a little bit too much of my time. Like nursing school is intense, so I had to sort of drop a few things to get through it. But I did write for quite some time.
So I wanted to pull all those things out because those are the things I know about you, but I can't just define you, obviously. Can you, in your own words, kind of sum up what is the current story of Rob and Harry? Like, who do you say, what do you say about yourself and who you are?
Oh, that's a heavy question.
And honestly, whatever you're comfortable to share. Like, yeah.
Well, I think I'm a lot of things. Okay, I'm trying to think of how to answer this without getting too long-winded. So one of the ways that I define myself is a cancer survivor. So when I was 29, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So that is one of the things that helps define me, because going through all the treatments. Sorry, I can't clear my throat.
You're good. You're good. Take your time.
Yeah, so going through all the treatments, and it was a very, very difficult time. It didn't feel as difficult as it did, and when I looked back at it, but it was really hard. But it also, I think maybe a lot of people can share this sentiment, but when you go through something that makes you sort of look at your own mortality and assign sort of like an expiration date on your life, a potential expiration date in your life, it makes you a little bit less fearful of taking chances, of doing new things, of getting out of your comfort zone. And I think that's one of the things that I went through in my life as a cancer survivor that sort of helped chart a path for the things that I've done since. So after I survived cancer, that's when I decided to change careers and went back to nursing school.
Right.
And that was a huge decision that has made all the difference in my life. Yeah. I love being a nurse. I love doing what I do. It also let me take chances to travel. So I ended up going to Norway on some nerd excursion to see this group that like no one ever heard of. Well, no, lots of people have heard of them, just no one cares about them.
Is it the Fox group? Am I remembering that right?
Fox group. It totally is the Fox group. I love them. I loved Elvis. I do love them. So I did that. That was out of my comfort zone because I was traveling to meet people I had never met before in my life. I only knew them online. It also gave me sort of a fearlessness to enjoy the things that I enjoy without making apologies for it. Yeah. So before I went through cancer, I was always sort of a closet nerd. Well, maybe not as closeted as other people. Other people might not have thought I was as closeted as I thought I was.
Fair. Okay.
But I was very much a nerd. I loved comic book stories. I always loved obsessing over television and stories and stuff like that, but I was never as verbal about it. And because, I mean, even when I did talk about like stuff I got really excited about, it was just like, there's always, you know, the people that roll their eyes like, oh my gosh, this again.
Yeah.
So I kind of tempered that part of myself. And then after I went through everything I went through with cancer, I was like, I'm not making apologies for this anymore. I like what I like. It brings me joy. Why should I apologize or feel bad about it because it's not what other people should think that I should like?
Absolutely.
So I was like, screw that.
Yeah.
So that's when I started going to I really started exploring the nerd side of myself. I started going to fan expo and conventions. I really embraced the writing about TV shows and really geeking out on stuff like that. I embraced fandoms. I embraced all that part of myself, and I haven't looked back. I mean, I'm wearing a Wayne Enterprises T-shirt. It's just.
I just got that. Yes. And you know what? I was supposed to wear my Star Wars shirt for you. I watched it and everything. I watched that shirt and everything. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I really, so being a cancer survivor has really affected a lot of my life.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that's one of the stories that defines me as a person.
Thank you for sharing that. Honestly, like that is such a, I know that's such a, can be such a personal thing, you know? And I mean, I feel like I've only had what would you say? An adjacent experience to that where, you know, watching my mom go through breast cancer twice. And I think it took the second time for me to really just be like, it's important to live now. Because the first time she had it, I responded more in fear and just like trying to hold on to things and really, you know, just do what little I could, but always afraid of the other shoe dropping. So to hear you talk about that and that switch, that big switch, that new kind of lease on life, that is incredible. And I guess you've never, I mean, obviously it sounds like you've never regretted that change, like switching over into nursing and everything.
No, I mean, I don't think anybody wishes is thankful that they had cancer, like, yay.
Yeah.
But I am thankful for the changes that it's made in my life, and for giving me that freedom and that courage to do things that I maybe wouldn't have done before or would have been too afraid to try.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's the silver linings. Oh, no, I don't like that phrase. I don't like that phrase. Silver linings. I don't like that phrase. But
no, I'm with you on that.
Goodness or something came out of darkness.
Yeah.
If that I think rings true. I don't like silver linings. That's a weird, I don't know. Anyways, so thank you for sharing about like who Robin Harry is. And then, you know, we got a little bit into the things that you wrote for when you were doing your not critiques, but your analyses of the shows. I wanted to ask you what kind of stories really stood out for you, maybe specifically in fandom, or have made a integral difference for you, you feel? Sorry, 1 second. My mother is belting. 1 second.
Oh dear.
I'm just gonna call her. I'm not getting up again. This is too much. Can you hear her? She's singing some Disney song. I'm like,
sorry, you're recording?
Yes, I'm recording. Okay, thank you. I know.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm just like hearing something, highest bows, something, whatever. Anyways, sorry.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so what are the stories that have made a big difference in your life or were an integral moment for you experiencing them?
Huh. That's another big question.
I gotta small these questions down, eh? I think I did some life, like one of the girls I talked to last week, she's like, that's a lot. I never thought about that before. And I was like, I'm sorry.
Okay, so I have to give it some thought. So, okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I'll start with my own story because I
Mm-hmm.
think again that it made a big difference in my life. I think that's one of the things that taught me the value of stories and the power of stories. So
Mm-hmm.
when I had cancer, um, I I mean you know what, it's a Caribbean thing. Like cancer is very, very, very scary, and people cry a lot when they hear somebody's diagnosed with cancer because in a lot
Yeah.
of back home it before our health systems improved could be a death sentence, right?
And for people who don't know, where are you from?
Dominica. So I thought I thought it very important to take control of my own story before it became sort of before it ran away from me, before people started feeling sorry for me or people started thinking that I was going through stuff that I wasn't. I thought, you know what, I'm gonna take control of this from the start. So
Yeah.
when I was first diagnosed, I started a blog.
Okay.
And I would blog about sort of the things that was happening at the time. I'd blog about my treatments, about what I was feeling at the time, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I talk about some of the setbacks. I talk about um, just where I was at that time. And I found that very empowering, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
I find it very empowering because I was able to control how people saw my experience with cancer as opposed to um, layering it, as opposed to people imposing sort of the common narratives that come with cancer treatments.
Right.
The whole fighting a battle thing and um, suffering through cancer. Like I was able to provide the adjectives and the verbs that people should be using. I thought people should describe what I was going through. And so I found that very powerful. In terms of external stories outside of myself, um, I'm heavily influenced by television. I'm not gonna lie.
Yep.
I
I relate.
grew up in the 80s. I grew up with a lot of television, and I always liked, one of my heroes growing up was MacGyver. And I loved how he applied scientific principles to everything. And I think, and then I watched shows like Quantum Leap, and the heroes of those shows were always very smart and use science for everything.
Right.
And I think that was one of the things that drove me to the sciences. I was always a bit of a nerd in school and whatnot, and I think those are the things that drove me towards science. And that's why I think that's one of the reasons I have science degrees. It's because I watched a lot of television that used scientific principles as what to drive their stories. I don't know if you've ever seen MacGyver.
I've only heard of it. I'm so
Okay,
sorry.
so basically the lead guy, MacGyver, Richard Dean Anderson played him. Uh, he was sort of like a spy or a government agent, and he would always end up in these weird situations where he'd have to use like a paperclip and bubble gum to get out of it. And while he was doing it though, well, he would just use whatever was around him, and he would be using like physics and chemistry to like create like homemade bombs to get out of really sticky situations. But he would explain what he was doing as he went along. Like he would explain, oh, so the chemical in this will react with the chemical in that, or if you apply heat to this thing, it should cause an explosion. And it was so cool. It was just so cool. So I think that was one of the things that first drove my fascination with science.
Right.
Because you could use it in everyday situations. It was just the craziest thing. So that's one of the stories I think influenced my life. I mean, I am a Christian, so the story of like the stories of the Bible have heavily influenced how I've lived, and how I see the world. And what else? What else? What else?
I'll just say real quick. I was Googling while you were talking about MacGyver. I did not realize this is Stargate guy.
Yes, he was MacGyver before he was Stargate guy. Yep.
Oh my goodness. So I'm assuming that MacGyver is what kind of made him big and famous to be the lead? Okay,
Yep.
all right. Now
Yep.
I know, the more I know.
And it's really fun for me to see people of younger generations realizing that people that they like now were in things that they never actually knew about before, like the whole Catherine O'Hara in
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's give people context for this.
being the mom in Home Alone. I love it.
So I'm in a group chat with Robin and our other friend Vivian, and one of my other fandom friends, actually from Arrow, she was really on me to get on Schitt's Creek. She was like, "You'll love it. It's so much fun. All this, and it took me a while to get there. I was just like, okay. Because I remember when it was first coming out in Toronto, and I remember seeing the billboards around John Street, and I was like, I don't know if this is gonna flop. It looks like it's gonna flop. What are they doing? Right. And it actually, got successful. Anyways, I was watching this show this whole time and seeing people talking about Canadian legends and Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara being Canadian legends, and I was like, okay, maybe it's just Canadian legends for people who actually watched all these shows, and I wasn't there. I mean, maybe it was some show I was banned from watching as a kid. Because I just associate half the things I don't know from things I couldn't watch.
Yeah.
So then someone put a clip on Twitter, and it was a side-by-side of Catherine O'Hara in Schitt's Creek, and the Home Alone moment. When I tell you my mouth dropped open, I felt so, I don't know if you can say this, but slow. I just was like, how did I not catch this? And you were so gracious and didn't laugh me out of the park when I told you guys in the group chat.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't understand, like, I mean, I was born in the early 80s, and I mean, I also grew up in the Caribbean, so I was kind of like, it's the equivalent of being born in the 70s here.
Fair.
So I appreciate that people who were born much later than I was are not going to be as aware of the things that I was aware of as I was growing up. Like, why should a 20-year-old be able to recognize Catherine O'Hara from a movie that came out before they were born? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So I don't like the whole shaming people for not being as up to date on pop culture as they are. It's just it's kind of silly.
Thank you for doing that. Honestly, I think that was part of what helped us we had so many good conversations. I remember just choir after choir rehearsals, just catching up on the most recent episode of whatever, and you would give me backstory. So I think even when we were talking about Arrow, and I think it was Merlin at that point, and I knew him in Doctor Who, but at that point I didn't know he had done Torchwood, and you filled that gap in for me, and it was so nice. I just always loved having those kind of conversations with you. That was great. So MacGyver, the scientific shows, stories in the Bible. My mom, who would have been on before this, she also was talking about that, just those incredible stories being an influence. But then most importantly, your own story and how that has really changed the trajectory of your life or impacted the trajectory of your life. I think that's incredible. I actually want to keep on that similar vein, because there was this post that you did back in, hold on, I have it right here. You posted it in August. So as people would know by now, Chadwick Boseman, he passed away earlier this year, 2020. And it was, in no short words, I would say devastating for not only the Black community specifically, but I would say nerd communities, nerd and fandom. it was just such a loss. He was such an incredible man. You know, we know him. He got, I think he got really known to the world by his role as T'Challa, Black Panther. But you know, obviously he had so many other incredible roles. It was Jackie Robinson, all these iconic Black heroes that he ended up playing, and a lot of these roles he was playing in the end of his fight. And I saw a post that you did on August 29th. And before I go into it, do you want to speak to it quickly about what the post was and where you were writing from?
So I think I wrote this either the night that we found out that he died or the day after, and I was just really angry about it. And I thought, and it may seem a little bit selfish because obviously, excuse me, obviously it affects his family a lot more than it affects the rest of us. But it just felt so unfair that in a world that had already been pretty shitty for Black people, we lost one of our icons. And I think where I was coming from is my own experience as a nerd and as a Black woman. So my life as a Black woman, as a nerd, generally did not really intersect. See if I can explain it. I'm just rereading my post so I can pull like points from it. Yeah,
for sure.
So me being sort of nerdy was sort of would elicit eye rolls from other Black people, or the Black people that I knew anyway, the Black women that I knew. It was always like, oh my gosh, Robin, this again? Oh my God, really? This is what you're talking about? And it's, and even after I, like, eventually I stopped caring about that, but that was kind of what was common to me, especially like on family and whatnot. Anytime I'd sort of geek out about something and be like, they had no idea what I had no idea what I was talking about.
Relatable.
Just, like, didn't understand why I would be so excited about whatever it is I was like excited about. And then to flip to the nerd side of me, like I'd go to Fan Expo or or like conventions or nerdy things, or like again my nerd excursions to Norway, and I'm the only Black woman for miles, and I would dress up as characters, and I always dressed up as Black male characters because Black female characters are even less common in nerd,
talk on it,
comic book world and the nerd world than Black men, and like I would be instantly recognizable because there's just so few of us. Like one year I dressed up as Kwame from the Captain Planet and the Planeteers, and instant recognition. People would call me Kwame as I walked through the halls. Another time I dressed up as Moss from the IT Crowd.
And, you actually told me about the IT Crowd.
Yeah. And again, instant recognition. So, but there were always so few other Black people and Black women at these events. Like the people I go with, like none of them are Black. So when Black Panther came out, it was the first time that, in my life anyway, that I saw the intersection of those two worlds. So where Black people were not afraid to be excited, or they were visibly excited about something that is like unapologetically nerdy. It's a comic book movie.
Right.
As with all the other themes it is still based on a comic book character. Yeah. Like we can't not think about that. So there's all these Black people and they're dressed up as character. They're dressed up in their African garb or they're dressed up as characters from the movie. And I'm just like, hey, where have you guys been when I was at Fan Expo by myself? But also, this is awesome. And so it was really, really incredible to see. And it was just, I had such a feeling of camaraderie at that moment, a feeling of belonging to both of those communities in a way that I hadn't felt that I belonged before. And it was because I mean, partly because of Chadwick Boseman. Like, he brought that character to life, and he gave it such depth. And oh my God, like this, the fact that that movie even existed
Right.
was what made that feeling possible. And then when he died, I was just like, are you kidding me? We just got that. We just
Yeah.
got that. We just got that feeling. And now one of the architects of that feeling is gone. And as a cancer survivor, it made me feel even worse because, oh my gosh, the survivor's guilt that comes with stuff like that. Just
I didn't even think about
make
that. Yeah.
even worse of a feeling. Because like, as a survivor, you're like, okay, if somebody that influential is now gone because of this illness, then okay, what am I doing here? Like, how can I, like, what is my purpose if I'm still here and someone who has made such a difference in so many lives is now gone? So yeah, so I was just really angry because I knew that Chadwick Boseman had, for the first time, given like young Black kids a nerdy person to look up to. Like, the white kids have always had Bruce Wayne
Right.
and
Right.
Wonder Woman and Superman and
Yeah.
like all of the other characters. And like, Chadwick Boseman gave these little Black kids T'Challa.
Yeah.
And now they have to wait for another one, right?
Yeah.
So, and they, like, I had to wait for so many years for that feeling, and now these kids have to wait just a little bit longer to have it again. So I don't know. It just made me really, really angry. It's probably irrational, but really angry that the world lost such a symbol of belonging, such a symbol of hope and aspiration. And yeah,
I'm getting emotional listening to you talk about it again because you tapped in, and I think so. This is a post for everyone listening. It's about It's about eight or 10 graphs, paragraphs, sorry, where Robin goes into her feelings and expresses, as she just said, everything that she was feeling in relation to Chadwick's passing. There's over 100 likes on it, over 21 comments. And I think part of that is because you really tapped into what a lot of us were feeling. Especially, I see Vivian there and Tara, myself, like Black women that are nerds. And I know it jumped out for me, and immediately, when I reached out to you, that was kind of the thing I was thinking about, was that intersection and what it's felt like this year. I feel like, between the protest, the loss of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Kobe at the top of the year, like not all these deaths that have been happening on top of a global pandemic, it was already a lot, and I think part of it also, I mean, everything you said about that moment of being able to watch this movie with other Black people and experience them, excited about a comic book movie when you were the only one before it. It was so different. But I think the kind of other killer was, I remember when Chadwick came out and did that video. You remember, I think it was actually at the top of this year, where he did a video and he was trying to fundraise for something. I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting it off the top of my mind. But everyone's takeaway from the video was talking about how skinny he was. Mm-hmm. and just he doesn't look well, and what's going on with Chadwick, and a lot of jokes were being put out online, and I think that was another part that was hard, because in the time where he was hurting and he was all this bright smile on and still doing the work, he was fighting this. And I mean, obviously there were people in his corner that knew about it, and his family, but I think because there were such collective unfortunate responses to it on top of what was already happening, it just felt like another shoot. I wish people weren't doing that to you in your last time on this earth. I don't know, what do you think about all of that happened there?
I think I think that was unfortunate. I think that I actually hadn't seen that interview, and
Okay.
I didn't actually see the reaction to it. I read about it afterwards, after
Right.
he died, when people started pointing out how sort of mean the internet had been
Yeah.
about how about his appearance during that
Mhm.
interview.
Mhm.
Um, I think we've gotten better as a people, um, about sort of commenting on people's appearances.
Mhm.
Because I mean, the way the way that would have been in like the 80s and 90s, like there's a lot more people a lot more conscious about the effect of their words, I think, now. And there are a lot of people who are more willing to fight back and tell people that they shouldn't comment on the way that they did. Um,
Absolutely.
but yeah,
Absolutely.
I think it was wrong. And I think that that would have been just another shitty thing that he had to deal with or go through when he was already going through what he was going through.
Yeah. I mean, it was just unfortunate. And to track back, I think what I hope happens is that this, like, that people are just seeing the wave of what these kind of stories mean to people. And I'm heartened because with the Disney announcements, that came a couple of days ago, so like early December, they're talking about all of these different movies and shows that are coming out, and it seems like diversity is a focus for them. I believe there's a there's a movie that's supposed to be coming out from a Nigerian creative team. I can't remember the name immediately, but
Mhm.
it's just things like that that get me excited. But we won't ever have that moment again of
Right.
Chadwick being in this role and King T'Challa. I'm a little bit sad that they're not recasting him right now. I get it,
Hmm.
but I'm a bit sad, just because there was so much that for that character, that I wanted to see happen. Um,
Right.
this will be a little bit of a segue, but what are your thoughts about the decision not to recast and its importance in the story?
You know, I kind of see both sides of it,
Yeah.
but I like Disney's decision.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact that they're not recasting him, because like I appreciate that the character T'Challa has so many other stories to be told.
Yeah.
Just from the comics, so many other stories that you can tell of T'Challa. But I think that the impact that Chadwick had as
Right.
an actor in that role, it would be very, very hard to recast him
Mm-hmm.
without without almost making it seem like he was replaceable. Like
That's a good point. Yeah.
like he you can't replace him.
Yeah.
Um so I think that there are a lot more stories that can be told without the character of T'Challa. And I personally am quite okay with exploring those other stories,
Yeah.
exploring Shuri's stories, exploring all the other stories that can be told from Wakanda, exploring another Black Panther that isn't T'Challa.
Right.
I
Right.
think there's
Right.
a lot to be told there, and I think if we're just willing to wait for what the stories are as opposed to what they should or could be, I think we'll be happy with the results. So I'm quite okay with Disney's decision. I
Yeah.
think it was the right call, and I'm still looking forward to whatever it is they do.
So well said, honestly. So well said. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah.
And I agree with you in that it would have been too soon, even if they
Yeah.
had recasted it to T'Challa. I don't think they could have done it
Mm-hmm.
in any short amount of years. Like
Yeah.
I think the blowback wouldn't be good on them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, thanks for going into that, because I think for me, even when I started this show, I started the show talking about comic book journalists, because for me, comic book characters almost serve. I saw someone say the other day that comic book heroes are for America, and I guess maybe you could broaden it out to North America. Comic book superheroes are for North America what Norse mythology can sometimes be for European countries, or Greek mythology for other people. And then, in the Caribbean, we have like the Nancy stories and all those different things. But I think with these stories, they've really bound my experiences together. I mean, from young, watching Superman to now, there's so many different ways to get involved in fandom. And when you lose one of those tentpoles of your experience, like Black Panther, I will never forget. I think we actually watched it together.
We were at the same movie at Yonge and Eglinton.
People had their food. I had my food. I had my Swiss chalet in my bag. It came out.
That was one of the most memorable movie going experiences of my life. I mean, and again, it went back to the intersection of the two worlds, right? So we're all rooting for the superhero. We're all rooting for Shuri and how nerdy she is. And
yes,
but we're also still experiencing all of it as Black people. Like, can you imagine being in a theater with majority white people when Shuri called him colonizer? Like, what?
That moment took us out.
It took everybody in that theater out, but we all found it funny because we were Black and we got that, right? It didn't make anyone uncomfortable.
No, you knew when to laugh and when not to.
Exactly, we understood some of where some of these jokes were coming from, and I thought that was just one of the most memorable experiences. And do you remember when somebody had the air horn when T'Challa came back to life? I mean,
it was so perfect. It was so perfect. Oh my gosh. I was like, no, sir. No, sir.
So funny.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was the best viewing. Like, I know people always talk about, or recently people have been talking about, I think it was Endgame, or it was Infinity War, if I'm remembering right, when Captain America pulls up the hammer and like how people start screaming, and that was an experience. But that was one moment. From beginning to end with Black Panther, we were all tied together. And I think what made it really powerful as well was the fact that it tied the diaspora together, because we were watching this in Toronto. So most of us in the audience, are West Indian descent, or, African countries, Nigeria, Ghana, all of that descent in the room. Then you had obviously African Americans who a lot of this, especially with Michael B. Jordan's character. Oh my gosh, what I'm blank. Killmonger. Like, that definitely resonated with African American audience, and I think very much with Black Canadians here and like our experiences. But it tied us all together, no matter where you were in the world, as Black people. And honestly, I don't think it can be overstated just how important that was for us. So yeah. Thank you so much for speaking to that. So this is going to be my last question before we go into the rapid fire. I'm over time. I'm so sorry. Do you need to run quickly? You're okay? Okay. So I'll just ask this last question and then we'll get into the rapid fire section. Okay. So, we've talked about what you do now, your current role, the kind of stories that stood out to you, but are there any new TV shows that you're enjoying, or things that are your kind of anchor in this wild time that we're living in?
Yes, actually. So there's a couple.
I'm ready.
Yeah, well, there's a few. Okay, so there's a lot that ties back to my nostalgia from my younger days.
Okay.
I am watching the reboot of DuckTales, and it is life. I absolutely love it. Like, just don't even talk to me when DuckTales is on.
I love it. Sorry.
I don't even care. It is so good. It is hilarious. And David Tennant as Scrooge, I mean, just the man is a genius.
Yeah.
So
we love David Tennant in this house.
Oh. Yeah, so DuckTales is awesome. I just started watching the new Animaniacs, which again, throwback to my childhood, so good. I also just binged watched the new, the reboot of Saved by the Bell.
Oh my gosh, you're the second person to have done that. How did you enjoy it?
It's really good. I was surprised because, I mean, the old Saved by the Bell, as nostalgic as it is, it would not age well. But they really lean into that with the new with the reboot, like they addressed that some of what happened in the old show was problematic.
Right,
And
right.
they really embraced a little bit of the idea that Zach Morris was actually kind of a sociopath. And
Okay.
and but it's also very modern. Like it deals with some of the ideas of privilege and like the disparities between some of the public schools and the higher end private charter schools. So there's that. I am loving The Mandalorian.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
I mean,
This is the way. This is the way.
Is the way. I love that show. I haven't seen yesterday's episode yet. But so I will say I was a casual Star Wars fan. I've seen all the movies. I haven't really delved into like sort of the canon and all the different sort of side stories. I hadn't watched any of the animated shows, and I'd mostly I'm not even gonna lie, I had mostly forgotten the prequels because they were crazy.
Oh no.
So like the original trilogy, New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, like I've seen those multiple times in my life.
Right.
The prequels I had only seen once. Like I didn't bother watching them again after I
can't give the prequels more love. They deserve more love.
you know what? I can't. I'm not gonna. Given that I watched them years ago, I am not going to comment on how good or bad they were because I don't feel like I
Fair.
can do that. Let me rewatch them and then I'll come back to you.
Okay, I look forward to it.
And then I watched like the last trilogy that just came out. So, and I had
For anyone who can't see my face, I just like slowly deflated.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well, yeah.
I think we understand how we both feel about that.
Yes.
So, so when The Mandalorian came out, I actually was late to start watching it. I watched it like probably months after everybody else. I watched the first season, and I absolutely fell in love with. First of all, the child, or
yes,
Grogu, or Baby Yoda, is just the most adorable. I can't. He's just too cute. He is too cute. It's almost distracting. The first time I watched it, like I almost couldn't concentrate because this child was too adorable.
Absolutely.
But the storytelling was just so fantastic. And I mean, the fact that we understand everything that Din is feeling, or Mando is feeling, or what's kind of going through his head without ever seeing his face is incredible to me.
Right.
Absolutely incredible to me. And I love how they explore the different worlds, and I love the storytelling there. And so that's actually gotten me interested in watching some of the other things in the Star Wars universe. So one of my other friends, Moses, he's a huge Star Wars fan, so he's convinced me to start watching Clone Wars.
Yes.
So
Essential viewing.
Pardon?
Essential viewing.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So I have recently started that. I'm not very far in, because there's just so much going on, but I have recently started that. I'm planning to watch through it, and I've just been watching like recap videos of the other movies because I'm like, I don't have the time right now to rewatch all of them. I will eventually, but so I've started watching Clone Wars. So yeah, so I think those are the big ones. I also watched The Boys, but I haven't watched this season yet.
Yeah, I haven't started that one either.
I haven't started this season.
I started the first season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved the first season.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely loved it. And I think the guy who plays Homelander, Anthony Starr, is just a freaking genius, because I don't understand how, like, I have never felt so uncomfortable by a character before.
Yes. I agree. I think
So
with him, I'm super uncomfortable because he is everything that Superman could be if things went wrong. Like, they've done different storylines of, like, you know, Superman raised in Russia or whatever kind of storylines, but I don't think we've seen it live action yet.
Yeah.
No, we haven't seen it live action yet. So to see it with Anthony's character, oof, it makes my skin crawl. It's too much.
He is so uncomfortable. And like that actor, I mean, he's so good at that.
Yep.
Because it would be so easy to play that character, to play Homelander a little bit too much where you just outright hate him.
Right.
Or not enough where he's just kind of like diet evil Superman.
Yeah.
But, like, he walks this line where he makes you feel like, he makes my skin crawl.
Right.
And
Yep.
I find that portrayal absolutely fascinating. For the most part, though, this year I've been rewatching old shows just because they don't require a lot of attention or emotional investment because I've seen them before. I know what's going to happen. I know what the characters are like. But it's still fun to kind of rewatch. So I rewatched The Mentalist this year. I rewatched Community this year. I rewatched New Girl this year.
Yeah. I think, like what you're saying specifically about the rewatching shows, it seems like a lot of people are in that boat, and I think it's because partially we know what to expect, and this year has just been such a year of things that you didn't know what to expect. So I mean, people don't understand why I have rewatched Scandal 2.5 times in this quarantine, and it's because everything crazy that happened in that show still now, especially in these Trump years, does not hold a candle to what has really happened in real life. So I can watch the craziness and be like, oh, this is so nice. What a fantasy of things that we thought were bad. There's worse now. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
And like I've rewatched that. I've been rewatching Doctor Who.
Oh yeah, I rewatched 11.
Oh, you did? I've been going back to 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will get back to 11 at some point. But just really quickly, to go back, you were talking about the Mandalorian, and even in the shows that you've been rewatching, these all compel you because of good storytelling. Like you said that the Mandalorian was just such a captivating story. So for you, I mean, I should have asked you this at the beginning, what makes for good storytelling in your point of view?
I think for good storytelling, I need characters that I find watchable.
Mm-hmm.
And I need characters that are interesting, characters that have some depth. And whether it's comedy, drama, science fiction, it doesn't matter, as long as the characters have more than one dimension to them. And I really, really enjoy character studies.
Mm-hmm.
And even when I wrote about TV, it was a lot of watching how characters interact with each other, how they grow, how the things that they go through influence their choices. And I find characterization one of the most important things about storytelling on television, because they're the ones that are driving those stories.
Absolutely.
I also, let me think. Like if the plot itself has holes,
Mm-hmm.
I will still find it watchable if the characters are good.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
If I can't stand the characters, if I don't like the people in the show, it doesn't matter how good the story is.
Yeah.
I won't watch it.
Do any shows come to the top of your mind when you say that? It
Um,
looks like a show did.
Okay, so I'm almost afraid to say this because I don't know how it's going to be taken, but
Okay. By me or just in general?
In general.
Okay.
The Mindy Project.
That's fair. Okay, yeah.
I love Mindy Kaling. I
Mm-hmm.
loved her on The Office, but I hated Mindy Lahiri with a passion. I could not stand her character. So as good as the Mindy Project was, and I did watch some of it, like the comedy was on point, I couldn't stand Mindy, so I couldn't root for her.
Fair.
I couldn't enjoy the show because I didn't actually like her as a person. Another one is Scrubs. I recently started rewatching that. Again, the comedy on point.
Right.
The storytelling, like the plot and like the the arcs in each episode really, really good, but I can't stand Elliot.
Fair.
And so I
So that's it. You
exactly.
can't.
But to enjoy, I feel like to get the best or to really enjoy Scrubs, you have to be able to, you have to root for the main characters. You have to kind of want to see them succeed or want to see them grow. And I can't, when I don't like you.
Yeah. You know what? That's so true. I wonder, I'm not really sure, like even for myself in terms of a show making me stick around. I think it has to be similar to you in that characters stick out. And I think like, for example, going back to Mandalorian, it took me a while to get on board with Mandalorian. I'm going to be honest. I'm a Star Wars fan, but it took me a second just because it felt like Disney was trying to get more toy opportunities, especially when Baby Yoda showed up. I was already annoyed because with Rise of Skywalker, I felt like they just wanted all the action figures, so they were dropping all these random new characters in. So I guess that's where the interactions outside of the show can kind of impact my viewing of a show. But yeah, I agree with you. Character is so important. Like you need that to engage further. I mean, taking it back to Scandal, Kerry Washington, Olivia Pope is not a nice person. However, I think I enjoyed her character because she was the first time I saw a Black woman actually get to be so messy and still, in a sense, win. Like she was a mess. It's like, this is delicious. She's not like some Aunt Viv or, like Felicia Rashad on Cosby Show. Like she has to be all proper and like respectability is the only way she'll survive. My girl is out here doing reckless things all the time. And I'm just sitting here like, I hope you don't get caught.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think that I don't think you have to find a character, like it doesn't have to be the character doesn't have to be a good person.
Yeah.
It has to be a good character, right?
Yeah.
Going back to The Boys, Homelander is not a good person.
Right, that part.
Like watching him is incredibly fascinating.
Yeah.
So I would keep watching a show with Homelander, not because I root for him or because I like him as a person, but because he's a really good character.
Right. Oh my gosh,
I think that's similar to Olivia Pope. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
She'd be crazy, but you still kind of want to keep watching her.
She'd be teething people's mans, like just running around. I'm like, sis, but please don't get caught. I don't want to see you in jail. Let that Jacob man go to jail. Go ahead, go to jail. Oh man, I've loved talking with you. Thank you so much, honestly, for
Same, honestly. I really enjoy our conversation.
It's like a warm hug. I just love it. It's so good. I know you're on social, but if people want to find you and you want to connect with people, where should they look for you?
So I'm on Twitter. My handle is @joyful. It's JOYEFUL. It's a play on one of my middle names. I think that's pretty much the only place you can find me.
Absolutely. And that will be in the show notes. And I'll make sure to link to, actually, no, your post is just for friends, so I won't link to that one. But
I don't mind making it
public?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you'll find the note that we were referring to about Chadwick Boseman in the show notes as well. Robin, before we switch out totally, I want to do rapid fire with you.
All right, bring it on.
Actually, I'm going to switch the order of this because this one's I think it's going to take a while for you. Okay, so first, how do you prefer to consume stories? Books, movies, or TV shows?
All of the above?
Ma'am, no, you have to choose one.
It depends on the kind of story.
I will accept that as an answer.
Okay.
I will accept that as an answer.
Okay, so like, yeah. I'll
go ahead.
Later on. Okay,
you
so
sure?
yes, so romance, books. I will not watch a romance movie unless like a friend is in it. Is what I did last week. So romance only books. I hate Lifetime movies.
Hashtag Lifetime. Go ahead, man.
No offense to Lifetime or people who watch them. It's like there is a place for it.
Yeah.
It's just not for me.
For sure.
I think epic movie, like action movies.
Yeah.
And everything else television.
Okay, so like even fantasy, like, are you looking forward to the Lord of the Rings series on Amazon?
Yes. I would rather watch, especially things that are epic. I have a short attention span. I would rather watch it for 45 minutes, 20 minutes than sit in a movie theater for 3 hours.
Fair. Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Okay. Did I cut you off?
Nope.
No? Okay. What is one book on your to-read list?
I haven't read the sequels to Ender's Game yet. Those are on my list.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about those.
Yeah.
Good. That's a good choice. Awesome. Okay. How do you prefer to read books, period? Reading or audiobooks?
Reading.
Reading. Cool. And favorite comic book TV show, what is it?
Oh.
This was the one that was first, so I switched it around.
Oh, man.
You get one choice. You can
one choice.
Yeah, one choice. And then you can give a runner-up. I'll let you do a runner-up.
Okay. Favorite is Batman the Animated Series. That is all-time
That tracks with what I know of you. Okay.
Runner-up. Runner-up, I think, is Young Justice.
Excellent choice. Excellent choice. Are you watching Titans, by the way?
Yes, I am watching Titans.
Okay,
I haven't seen the third season.
I don't think it's out yet.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So we're almost there.
Yeah.
Robin, this is amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. And people can check out with you online, and the notes will be in the show notes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun.
Oh, shoot. There's one other question I forgot to ask you. Is there
All
anything that you wanted to say? Like, is there anything I didn't ask you about that you felt you wanted to talk about? Like an open stage moment?
Sorry, a what?
Like an open stage moment. Like if there's anything I didn't ask you, you can share.
No, I think we covered a lot. We can always schedule a part 2.
There we go. You do know that is like default, because like I think you're probably the closest outside of Vivian that I can have these kind of conversations with. So yeah, don't worry. Part 2 is on your radar, miss.
All right. Bring it on.
Awesome. Thank you. What an incredible person. Robin, thank you so much for being on Talking Stories and sharing so much about your experiences, your story. I left that conversation just feeling so moved, and I hope you who are listening today were also moved and inspired by Robin's incredible story. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, share it with a family member, and let me know what you think. You can get in touch with us on all of our social media channels. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram. You can find all the links in the show notes. But again, we want to make sure that this show is something that's impactful for you as you go through your day-to-day life and journey here on this planet that we call Earth. So thanks again for listening to Talking Stories with Raquel Russell. I hope to see you on another episode. Keep living your real and keep living your truth. We'll see you again soon.